Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Thursday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily. And yes, I have seen part 1 of the season 12 finale. Absolutely loved it, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Watch it live, don't let people spoil it for you. Can't wait till next week's actual finale. Oh, apparently that one's going to leave you needing a whiskey, according to Chris Chibnall. But I will review the finale part 1, Ascension of the Cybermen, on Monday. Look out for that. I have a lot to say about the episode. But we're not here to talk about that today on today's Doctor Who Daily. We're here to talk about Paul Kirkley of The Guardian newspaper and his controversial article, The Diehards of Doom, Why Doctor Who is the Show Fans Love to Hate. We are very hard to please, I can't deny that, but let's give this a read. For 56 years and counting, Whoivans have been railing against the wheres and whys and well, everything about their beloved series. Will anything quell this rage? So let's see, this is going to be very controversial. This is a controversial article and it's pointed at us. Right, what has happened to the magic of Doctor Who? This was the question posed in full caps by the president of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society in its magazine TARDIS. The year was 1977 and the story under scrutiny was The Deadly Assassin. Today, this Manchurian candidate rife in conspiracy thriller is regarded as one of the Doctor Who's all-time greats. From the height of Tom Baker's stripy scarf Imperial phase, but you'd never have guessed that from Jan Vincent Rutsky's Hatchet Job, which railed against its logical title and the rewriting of Whoeven Law. If this seems like a funny way of showing your appreciation for something, the DWAS, as it was known, wasn't alone over at the rival Doctor Who fan club. The story also came in for a kicking. So fed up was DWFC Secretary Keith Miller with the way the programme has degenerated that in 1978 he shut up shop altogether, asking how can you be president of a fan club for a programme you've lost faith in? Pretty easily, as it happens, because since then, when has liking Doctor Who been a prerequisite of being a Doctor Who fan? Oh, I love this guy already. If after any episode airs this series, there has been hair pulling over everything from whether the Doctor was right to betray Sacha Dhawan's master, to the Nazis, to her frozen response to Graham's cancer fears, the latter prompting the BBC to issue a rare clarification on the character's motivations. Even an episode lauded as last month's Fugitive of the Judoon, in which Jo Martin was revealed as a Herfurto unseen incarnation of the Doctor, infuriated a vocal minority. Well, I think it was more of a majority. It didn't infuriate me. The whole arc just excites me, by the way. Aghast at how it might impact the show's continuity. Similarly, the haunting of the Villa Diodati, which even the most stubborn Who referencenick must concede was a banger, has upset some by contradicting a previous hookup between Mary Shelley and Paul McGann's 8th Doctor in Big Finish's audio adventures. We discussed that yesterday, didn't we? There also exists a small but noisy rump of fandom committed to broader wailing about how woke Doctor Who is now. Dead to them. Some, though not all, are fully fledged not my Doctor misogynists. Wow, these are big claims by this journalist, aren't they? We'll discuss them. But it was never thus. In 1966, the BBC's own audience research department published a report on a negative response to Patrick Troughton's pukish second Doctor, with complaints that he was idiotic and a pantomime character. A few years later, Baker, the great godhead of Doctor Who, was described in the same forum as too stupid for words. Wow, how people remember things differently. The 1980s were particularly choleric period. BBC even provided disgruntled followers with a platform to air their grievances. I bet that was busy. With superfan Ian Levine condemning Doctor Who as a mockery of its former self on the review show Did You See? Levine also posed for an infamous press photo in which he smashed his TV with a hammer. When Sylvester McCoy debuted as the Doctor in 1987, the DWAS top dog penned a damning op-ed for the Daily Mail, in which he concluded that the show was slowly but surely being killed. Shortly afterwards, a rare piece broke out, with fans agreeing that McCoy's later adventures were the finest the show had produced in years. Obviously, that's when the BBC cancelled it. When Doctor Who did eventually return 16 years later, it proved a rating smash under the guidance of Russell T Davies, especially the free series with David Tennant as a rock star Time Lord. But Doctor Who fans weren't put on this earth to enjoy Doctor Who. Oh, God forbid! Agree with me and viewers, there were complaints about burping bins and farting monsters. There was endless bellocking about Davies ex machina, the term fans adopted to describe Davies' fondness of hand-waving plot resolutions, and the outrage at Catherine Tate's casting as companion Donna Noble. Actually, I remember this, and people were very, very unkind about Catherine Tate's Donna Noble, but by the time she finished her run, we were all loving it. But I never complained because I loved her in The Runaway Bride. Was so voice-furious, Davies was forced to speak out against those dark corners of the fandom that react as if the world is ending. His successor, Stephen Moffat, endured similar barbs from the so-called faithful. His watch was deemed too complicated, though, and it also coincided with the rise of Twitter, a forum that has done more than anything else to amplify bizarre grudges. Naturally, when current showrunner Chris Chibnall came in and dialed down Moffat's knotty plotting, fans protested that it had become too simplistic again. Yeah, you can't please us, can you? If Doctor Who seems like a show that has been disappointing its devotees for 56 years and counting, perhaps this is to be expected. After all, no other TV series in history has shown such a willful disregard for anything approaching a house star happily pressing the reset button every week and leaping between planets and time zones, comedy, tragedy, psychodrama and space opera. Besides, it can be healthy to mock the things we love. Half the fun of being a Doctor Who fan is celebrating those moments where the show falls short of its evaluating over-ambition, which when you're trying to map an entire universe of wonders and terrors on a BBC budget is often, this is the show. Lest we forget that one staged a Concorde hijack in BBC Television Centre. Case in point, in 1986, two of Doctor Who's writers were subjected to handbanging from a group of die-hard fans on BBC feedback show Open Air. I don't remember this actually. Among them was a teenager who offered a quietly devastating critique of the cliché scripts full of running up, down corridors and silly monsters. His name, Chris Chibnall. And here's the thing, isn't it? This is what's so funny about the whole thing. And I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at us as a fandom. It's the irony that Chris Chibnall was on television in 1986 criticising the show. The difference is Chris's criticism was constructive and he wasn't calling him Chibs the idiot. That's the difference. Constructive criticism is fine. But with YouTube and the internet now, it's gone too deep, too dark, and it's gone too far. In 2018, Chibnall dismissed his younger self's words as a load of nonsense. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't either way. It's comforting a reminder that whenever anyone lifts a rock to expose those darker, damper corners of fandom Davies warned about, chances are what emerges will be a load of nonsense as well. Any show that continues to provoke such passionate debate is clearly doing something right. It's when the arguments stop, he needs to worry. A brilliant article. Brilliant art. I really like that by Paul Kirkley. Most of you are going to hate that. You're going to think, why is this geezer laughing? Is he a Doctor Who fan? No, because it's true. You can't please us. When RTD was running this show, Doctor Who should never be epic. When Moffat was running it, and I was saying stuff as well. I'm not just talking about you. I didn't like how dramatically different it was to Russell's era. I loved Russell's era, and Stephen's era was so difficult to get a handle on. But when I got a handle on it, mostly I enjoyed it. But obviously there were moments I didn't enjoy it, and that's fine. You've just got to be constructive with your criticism. Now, Chris Chibnall. We need to talk about Chris Chibnall. Chris Chibnall is a political activist. He's very passionate about gender equality and representation. We know that. It's why he casted a female doctor. But you must always remember that back in the 80s, Doctor Who was accused of being a sexist, misogynist dinosaur and a racist show. And now we're coming full circle to this introduction of these multicultural regenerations of the Doctor we've never met. Mostly going to be women of colour, right? So he's trying to readdress the balance. Nobody at the BBC has ever enjoyed these accusations of misogynism and sexism. It's a big, big accusation for the show. And this is the kind of accusations that were labelled even at the RTD era and the Moffat era. And I thought there was much representation on those shows, but people will still say they were pretty white shows. But this is this is the difference. When I was a kid, right, and I was celebrating EastEnders on my Instagram today, talking about how many doors they kicked in, Colin and Barry, the first, prominent gay couple. And for me, having Lord Cashman, a gay activist, playing a gay character and facing what gay people faced in the 80s, and none of you face what people like Lord Cashman faced in the 80s. The man's a pioneer. But I was brought up by very homophobic and racist parents. I loved them dearly, but their attitudes were so archaic because crap was drummed into them. But by me being able to watch things like EastEnders and having a gay actor like John Barrowman kiss the Ninth Doctor on the lips in the parting of the ways, it broke many, many kind of dispersing myths to me. And TV is important in that way. The difference is now the way it's done. It's so blunt and so blatant and so judgmental, it doesn't work and it triggers people. But I do think representing everyone is important, but don't forget to write a good story. And that's the whole thing here. So Paul does comment on Not My Doctor, that he called it the misogynist element of the fandom. There are the hashtag Not My Doctor Brigade, and I'm sure some of you are actually watching this video. Look, I believe that everyone is entitled to an opinion, even the most horrific, cruel of opinions. It isn't what we want to hear. I don't go with the Not My Doctor thing, but at the end of the day, that is your right to have that opinion. But it's how you analyse Doctor Who. And I think Chib's the idiot and Whittaker the hateful are not ways you should be talking about people, especially after what's happened to Caroline Flack just days ago. I wasn't in Caroline's mind. I don't know why she took her own life in such a brutal way. But if someone does that in that way, they felt there was nowhere else to turn. There's no coming back after that, is there? So I think we all have to be careful here, because Jodie may not have an official Instagram or an official Twitter, but her friends have, her family have, and she's watching what you're saying. She's still going onto YouTube. Yes, publicly, her and Chris Chibnall has said, we don't take much notice of what people are saying. We're too busy doing our job. But you can bet your bottom dollar that the insults flying towards their way are, and it affects you. And it's hard. Millions of people saying horrible things about you. As I say, constructive opinion is important. If it wasn't from the constructive criticism of season 11, we wouldn't have got season 12. It wouldn't have been more Doctor Who. We wouldn't have had the Daleks on the last New Year's Day special. We wouldn't have had the Master back, right? I think this arc was always coming from Chris. And with all the kind of course corrections we've had this season, he's still going. He's still going hell no for leather with, these multicultural versions of the Doctor doesn't remember, and we have never seen before. And you can bet your bottom dollar that is going to break Twitter, especially if they're pre-Hartnell regenerations. I don't know where they come, but we will see. I think they're actually clones, but we will see. But a clone can actually be the Doctor, because if you're cloned from the Doctor and the Master, you're still those people, right? So seeing the first part of the finale, Ascension of the Cybermen, yeah, brilliant, but the Not My Doctor Brigade won't like it. But I can't stop those people from saying what they're saying. All I can do is advise you to be more constructive. But yes, the point sarcastically this journalist is trying to make is you just can't please us Doctor Who fans. There's always been something to complain about. But the complaints about Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker are coming from a different angle. There's some complaints where people say, for example, the complaints about the preachy thing, all from 55. I'm not interested in conversations like that. It doesn't really get anywhere. And maybe they could go at these things a little bit differently and a little bit blatantly. But I still think these climate change deniers would still be angry about it, right? But the point is, and the problem is with the standalones, when you haven't bothered to properly flesh out your lead and her companions, you've got a problem in the standalones. Now, Tennant did the Shakespeare Code, which is an all right episode, but it's a middling episode. Is it in episode 3, I think? Or episode 2, sorry. There's that one in season 3 when, with the pollution and the floating cars and they're all trapped, right? That's a solid episode, but it isn't a great episode either. It's not exciting Doctor Who. A lot of people find it boring. But because people are so captivated by David's Doctor and Freema Agyeman's portrayal of Martha Jones, it gets you through the episode. And that's the problem with Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who. Because he's doing this slow burn thing where his whole kind of plan is going to be revealed now, kind of 2 seasons after his tenure, it's been very, very difficult for people to say that these characters are memorable, even that this Doctor's memorable. Right now, she's not. But she is showing definite touches of getting darker in the next season. And I think after the finale, seeing the first part of it, you can already see where we're heading. Now, for the final part of today's Doctor Who Daily, I want to discuss Captain Jack Harkness. I always wondered, could Captain Jack and the Doctor, could Gwen? No, yeah, let's fully round this. Could Captain Jack and Gwen and the Doctor travel together in a whole season, for every episode, for one season? How would you feel about that? Now, some people say to me, no, Captain Jack would be too annoying. He's good in small doses, but he did work in Torchwood. He works in Torchwood because he's less, he's more, especially in season 1, he's using the people he's got at Torchwood. He's just using them to get to the Doctor. His only focus is to get to the Doctor. His reaction in one of the episodes when someone takes the hand and he goes after them, all he cares about is discovering where the Doctor is, because he's in love with the Doctor. And he kind of goes into that a bit when he meets up with the Doctor at the end of season 3. So he's a different Captain Jack, and he's still Captain Jack, but he's different. When he's with the Doctor, he's different, because when you're with people you love, you change your mentality and your personality comes out. But would Captain Jack and Gwen work as full-time companions? Let's just say in season 13, Captain Jack and Gwen are full-time companions with the Doctor. I think this would be absolutely freaking magnificent. And I don't see issues. Why? Because Gwen and Captain Jack are already fleshed out, filleted characters. We love them. We haven't seen them in live action for a while. They're doing a lot of Big Finish, which is awesome. You need to give them a listen. But having them, if Chibnall could get them as the full-time companions, it would solve a lot of problem. Now, some of you are saying, but would they dominate Jodie Whittaker? Not necessarily. Not if the kind of channeling and fleshing out what they're doing with her this season, I think it could work. I think the reason Chris Chibnall hasn't fleshed out the companions properly is because he feels that's a way of Jodie's Doctor standing above them. Instead of actually writing her to be the life and soul of the party, being a typical Doctor if you want, that would have been easier. But instead he decided, well, we've got a female Doctor. We don't really have to do too much with the companions. Let's have her standing and being the life and soul. The problem with that is when you don't flesh a Doctor out, and even a Doctor needs fleshing out, you do get problems. But I would definitely be one of those people to say you could cut out a lot of issues with the companions that we've had in the last 2 seasons, by not fleshing him out, by having companions that people would love to see every episode. You could see the Doctor and Captain Jack coming to blows about certain decisions, because Captain Jack's one of these guys who is willing to get his hands dirty, right? And we've seen that in Torchwood. And of course, this kind of thing, the Doctor and Captain Jack can come to blows. And Gwen is a very aggressive woman as well. And I would love a friendship between Gwen and the Doctor too. I mean, they spoke before a little bit on Journey's End, but I think that was really interesting. I also always said, after I saw The Unquiet Dead, that Gwyneth, the character that Eve Miles played in that episode, I actually prefer her to Gwen, and I would have loved her to travel with the Doctor and Rose. That would have been interesting. I'm surprised they never did that. But I think Captain Jack and Gwen travelling together would solve a lot of problems. You don't have to flesh them out. It's all there. You're going to put more butts on seats. I know it's cheap, but it works, and it could be a really good solution to Chris Chibnall's, let's just say, companion, how we see a companion problem. But I mean, we'll see if he feels if he's made a mistake with these companions. If he kills them off and they're not on the special and in the next series, then we know he agrees with us. They simply haven't worked. I feel bad for the actors, because it's really hard to get work in this industry, even if you've been on a successful show. Sometimes it gives you even a harder time. So, but I do think they will be replaced. I would personally go there. I would go Captain Jack, Gwen Cooper. It would be freaking amazing. But I want to know what you think, fellow Doctor Who fans. What do you think about that article? Are you offended by it, or do you think it's as hilarious as I do? Would you like Captain Jack and Gwen to travel with the 13th Doctor in Series 13? Because I certainly would. Comments down below. I'll read them all, respond to some, like, share the channel, share the video, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. See you then.